Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to be here with you today. My name is Sanghee Hong, working at Korea Institute of Ocean Science and Technology. In my presentation, I would like to talk about sources and pathways of microplastic to the marine environment. My talk covers key potential sources for microplastics and pathways by which microplastic can reach the sea, and the case studies conducted by our research team. Let me start off with sources of microplastics. Microplastics in the environment originate from a variety of sources, both on land and at sea. Based on the coastal cleanup data, it has been estimated that approximately 70 to 80% of ocean plastic come from land-based sources, and the remaining 20 to 30% from marine-based sources. Plastics are used in many household or commercial activities on land. This slide shows the main known microplastic sources on land, which can be classified as household, industry, agriculture, landfill, transportation, harbor, and littering. I will explain each of them in detail in the next slides. One of the few sectors where published data on microplastics was available was the household. The major item generating microplastics in-house are synthetic textile and personal care products. Washing synthetic textile creates microplastic fibers through abrasion and shredding of fibers. Dr. Brownie first demonstrated that fibers from washing clothes can be an important source of microplastics through sewage contamination. The experiment sampling wastewater from domestic washing machine presented that over 1,900 fibers was generated per washing from a single garment, and 300 to 1,500 milligram microplastic fibers per kilogram textiles are generated per washing. The amount of microplastics depends on the fabrics, temperature, washing time, mechanical action, and washing detergent. The fibers are then discharged in sewage water and potentially ended up to the ocean. Significant amount of these textile fibers are observed in many in situ sampling studies in both open water and marine sediments. Microplastic bead has been used in personal care products for the past 50 years. They are used in a variety of personal care products such as liquid soap, shower gel, toothpaste, and so on. According to the European Market Survey, the average microplastic content in all liquid soap is 0.6%. And it is estimated that 4,600 to 94,500 microbeads may be released per application of our skin epoxylate. The use of rinse-off products results in the direct introduction of the plastic particles into wastewater streams. Therefore, several countries have taken steps to ban microbeads. South Korea banned the use of microbead in rinse-off cosmetics from July 2017. Our team analyzed the polymer composition of microbead in cosmetics sold in Korean market. Microbeads are commonly found in cosmetic samples. Polyethylene is most common, and some is polypropylene and polyethylene copolymer. Microbeads have a spherical shape, but they have also irregular shape, like a flake or fragment, which are the common shape of secondary microplastics found in the environment. Therefore, this result means that it is difficult to distinguish the origin of microplastic in environmental samples by shape. The photo of the left side is a spherical shape of microbead collected from the Korean coastal waters. Resin pellet is a raw material of plastic manufacturing that are melted and molded to produce and use plastic products. Their typical size is 2 to 5 millimeter in diameter. Plastic pellets are produced by the petrochemical companies and transported to plastic manufacturing facilities to produce a final product. During manufacturing, processing, transport, and recycling, pellet can be spilled into the environment through small or large incidents. Pellets are commonly found on beaches. The photo on the right side taken was from the beach near our institute. The yellow arrows indicate resin pellets. The photo on the left side is a news report on pellet spill accident from container ships in the official waters of Hong Kong in 2012. Microplastics are also used extensively in industry and manufacturing. For example, the abrasive blasting activities to clean the surface of the building and the ship hulls, oil and gas generation, garment, and so on. The material consists of acrylic, melamine, or polyester, but there is no information on volume. Plastics are also widely used in agricultural sector. Plastic mulch is used to reduce soil water evaporation and weed control. Sewage sludges are reused as agricultural soil or fertilizer. A recent study found that microplastic amount increase over the time where the successive sludge applications are performed. Municipal solid waste landfill has also been suspected to be released microplastic to the environment. The landfill was reported to store 21 to 42% of global plastic waste production. Microplastics were detected in refuse and leachate from landfills. The characteristic pattern of microplastic in landfill varied from different landfill age. For example, polyethylene microplastic underwent oxidative degradation with the increasing landfill age. Tire and road wear particle has also recognized recently as one of the major sources of microplastic in the environment. Tire wear particles are generated from tire undergoing friction on the road. The yearly load of tire wear particle emission is estimated as 0.23 to 4.7 kg per year. Dr. Sommer estimated about 30 volume percent of all microplastic that polluted rivers and oceans related to tire wear. Car tires are largely made of styrene butadiene rubber. It should be noted that tire-derived microplastic contain not only original rubber, but also potentially hazardous metals and additives. To improve the performance of the asphalt, polymers are added to some bitumen, that is binder of asphalt. Another source of microplastics from road is abrasion of the road marking. There is partly thermoplastics. Tire and road wear particles will then either be spread by the wind and washed off the road by rain. Abrasion and fragmentation of larger plastic items and materials by environmental weathering, such as UV radiation and mechanical abrasion, is the most important process generating secondary microplastic both on land and at sea. The photo of the right side showed the surface feature of expanded polystyrene plastics before and after 2 months of UV radiation. After UV radiation, you can see many cracks and small pieces are visible on the surface of the plastic particles. Now, I would like to move to pathways of microplastic from land to sea. The microplastics generated from point sources on land are sent to the waste treatment plants, and after removal process in the waste treatment plant, is effluent including the untreated microplastic is discharged to rivers or directly discharged to sea. This is point source discharge. Meanwhile, The microplastics can be introduced to aquatic environment through non-point source discharge, such as stormwater runoff. The wastewater treatment plant play an important role in removing microplastics generated on land, but also releasing microplastic to the environment. The final emission of microplastics are depending on efficiency of wastewater treatment process. Except for one study by Leslie, the overall microplastic removal efficiency of wastewater treatment plant was above 80%, and the number is increased to over 99% in wastewater treatment plant with tertiary treatment. Primary treatment can effectively remove the majority of microplastic in wastewater, and secondary treatment managed to further decrease of microplastic. However, the abundance of microplastic in final effluent is not small. That is comparable with or higher than floating microplastic in seawater. The important transport pathway of microplastic from land to sea could be riverine and atmospheric transport. There are multiple routes by which plastic can enter the ocean. One key input is through river system, because river connects land to sea. This slide presents a global model of plastic input from rivers into the ocean based on waste management, population density, and hydrological information. The year load of plastic waste from rivers to ocean is estimated as between 1.15 and 2.41 million tons. The top 20 polluting rivers, mostly located in Asia, accounting for 67% of global total. Research on microplastic in the atmosphere has recently begun and is increasing. Recent studies reported that microplastic commonly occur indoor and outdoor air from urban, suburban, and rural areas, and also house dust. Following this observation, microplastics were detected in the air samples from Pyrenean Mountains and Tibetan Plateau and West Pacific Ocean. This result highlights the movement of microplastic away from known sources into remote areas, and the atmospheric transport could be a significant pathway for inland microplastic to the ocean. IUCN reported that three major sources of microplastic release are laundry of synthetic textile, the erosion of tire while driving, and city dust. And the main pathway of the ocean release of microplastic is road runoff, followed by wastewater treatment system and by wind transfer. Microplastic can be formed from sea-based sources, such as gray water discharge, accident spill, ship paint, fishing gear, plastic debris. There is open debate about the relative importance of marine and land-based sources for ocean pollution. It may be different by regions or countries. For example, the relative contribution of sea-based sources may be high in the region with high marine use, such as Asia. So far, the overall information on sea-based sources is very limited. Lastly, I would like to briefly introduce our study on land-based input of microplastic to marine environment. This study was conducted to assess quantity and characteristics of land-based input of microplastics to a coastal bay of South Korea. Masan Bay is a semi-enclosed bay surrounded by densely populated city of Changwon, which has petrochemical, heavy metal, electrical, and plastic industries. In 1983, Masan Bay was designated as a special management area in Korea due to its heavy load of land-driven contaminants. On this map, yellow zone refers to residential and commercial area, blue zone thus industrial area, black square wastewater treatment plants, blue circle is port. Three input pathways of microplastic can be defined in this study, such as riverine discharge, the wastewater treatment plant effluent, and atmospheric deposition. To identify the amount of characteristics of microplastic transported to this bay, clean water, wastewater treatment plant effluent, and atmospheric deposition samples are collected and subjected to microplastic analysis. Clean waters are collected from 5 major creeks inside the bay. Wastewater treatment plant effluent are collected at 2 wastewater treatment plants. The total air deposition samplers were installed in the small island located in the center of the bay. For the comparison, marine metrics such as seawater, sediment, and biota also collected. This slide shows the microplastic detected in input sources and marine matrices. As you can see, microplastic of various colors, sizes, shapes, and polymer types are appeared. In clean water, relatively higher amount of microplastic was found in waters from urban areas than from agricultural area. The microplastic concentration shows a good relationship with population density. This result is similar to those from Chesapeake Bay and Lakdong River, South Korea. In atmospheric samples, microplastics are also abundantly found. Their abundance shows a wide variation. Interestingly, a positive linear correlation was found between microplastic concentration and PM2.5. Based on microplastic concentrations, we estimated the annual input load of microplastic to the bay and compared the relative contribution of three input sources. Approximately 1.3 trillion microplastic particles annually introduced to the bay. Based on the number, atmospheric deposition has the highest contribution, followed by wastewater treatment plant effluent and clean water. Based on weight, wastewater treatment plant effluent has the highest contribution, followed by atmospheric deposition and clean water. This result indicates that Korean coastal waters received a substantial amount of microplastic from land-based sources. Okay. In this study, we investigated microplastic contamination of abiotic matrices and biotic matrices in 3 coastal regions characterized by different types of human activities, such covering urban, aqua farm, and rural areas. Diverse polymers are found in marine matrix from urban sites, implying the diverse microplastic sources in highly populated and industrialized areas, which is consistent with the high diversity of polymer types in clean water passing through the city. Polyester was more abundant in aquapalm site, reflecting the wide use of expanded polystyrene aquaculture buoy. Polypropylene was more abundant at the rural site, probably due to the use of polypropylene rope and net in fishing activity. The result of our studies can be summarized as follows. Microplastic is widely present in riverine water, wastewater treatment plant effluent, and atmospheric deposition samples. A considerable amount of microplastics are entering from land to marine environment through both water and aerial transport pathways. The contamination characteristics of microplastic in coastal environment is closely related to nearby human activities and population density. The overall information on sources and pathways of microplastic into the ocean is very limited. More detailed studies are required to assess land-based sources and also, more importantly, sea-based sources. The behavior and the fate of micro and macroplastic in marine environment needed further studies in terms of transportation, aggregation, sinking, weathering, degradation, sorption, and deposition of chemicals, etc. Thank you for your attention.